Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Motility webinars. My name is Griffin Greer with the Professional Services Department, and this morning we're going to start looking at the accounting module. We have accounting sessions scheduled throughout today and tomorrow. They're all separated, and they're about 30 minutes apiece, so we don't overload you too much in any one session. So plan on the next 30 minutes or so. We're going to get a general overview of the accounting module and how to navigate it, and then we'll start diving into some of its features through the rest of the day and tomorrow. So for those of you who have been with us all week, welcome back. Any newcomers, welcome. We're going to go ahead and give maybe 4 or 5 minutes here for anyone else to join in for a few minutes. So sit tight, top off your coffee, and get ready to review the accounting system. All right, everybody. Good morning. For those of you joining here, again, my name is Griffin here with the Professional Services Department team. I'm not sure. I think there might have been a scheduling mishap when our team had created the webinar schedule. I think a second webinar got posted at the same time. And I think a lot of the folks may have signed up for that one. So that's why we see far fewer attendees today. So for those of you who are here, thank you. We're sending out an email to everybody else to see if they can join, mid-session if they were trying to get to this one. The other one was posting deals, which we will have tomorrow. But today's session will be on just kind of general navigation of the accounting module. So we'll go ahead and get started. There may be some folks joining in a little late, but I want to take the next 30 minutes or so just to get you primed on how to navigate accounting. So kind of what we've talked about over the last couple of days, we continue discussing how certain modules might, only interact for that location. Well, accounting is a little different. It's just like the CRM and inventory. I could open up the accounting module in Store B, Store C, Store A, doesn't matter. Typically what's happening is since all three of my stores here, or in this case I have 5, right, A, B, C, D, and E, they are all under one corporation, right? We are one corporation with 5 separate rooftops. So the accounting for all 5 stores is done out of one location, typically the first store, Company 1. So what you'll find is within the accounting module, you're going to have Company 1 transactions assigned to Profit Center A. You're going to have Company 1 accounting transactions assigned to Store B and C and D and E all the way down. So let's take a look at what that looks like. But just good to know that if you enter into accounting, it's still always defaulting back to that home store. But if I open up Company C's accounting module and I go to write an accounting entry, it's going to default the transaction to that location. And you can even see here, as you enter the accounting module, it prompts you which store you're keying in transactions for. There's, not to say that you can't enter into Company A and then write a transaction exchanging money between stores B and C, but it's going to default to the one that you pick in this list. Not a big deal. I think as you navigate the module, you'll kind of get a feel for how that operates. So now what we have is the main accounting screen. And up here in the top left, you have your day-to-day banking utilities. This covers accounts payable or writing checks, receive pay on accounts for any accounts receivable, like your contracts in transit or any other receivables you might place on account, your warranty credits, so the warranty-specific receivables that need to be applied, both the credits themselves, where the checks are coming back in and applying against that original claim. Our daily deposit screen, which is all cash, card, check, any form of payment collected by the dealership should pass through a clearing account, which will show up in this daily deposit screen. From there, once you make your day's bank deposit, then all of those balances should land in the reconciliation accounts, or the checking accounts to be reconciled. And then from there, you have some additional utilities like accounts receivable, invoice tracking, for statement purposes. You have a purchase order and receiving control center. So rather than having to navigate to the parts and service module, for those of you who were on those sessions earlier this week, you can see all of those receivers and purchase orders in the accounting system. We also have a full check approval setup. So this is to help augment our Motility Pay check writing process. So we'll get into that a little bit later in this morning's Motility Pay / accounts payable training. But from there, those are your day-to-day utilities. Now, there are some additional features here in the tools menu, and we'll go through these briefly. But for the most part, day-to-day, these 7 tools here should cover the majority of your responsibilities for the dealership. Now, if I'm not actually writing transactions or using these utilities, you'll still want to be familiar with how to navigate the module and best practices. So let's go through the journals and discuss what these mean. And then we'll use the search transactions tool, which is probably my favorite part of this module. It's one of my favorites in the whole program, simply because I end up doing lots of research sometimes, accounting-wise, data-wise, and other than a report, sometimes this search transaction screen is the best thing you have. Most of the times better than a report because of how you can manipulate it. But I'll show that here in a moment. But in the meantime, let's go through these journals. So these journals can be customized if you're not happy with their current layout. Again, they're mostly bookmarks. When your entire ledger is at your hands, you want to have a way to organize and, sort all of the transactions flowing into it. So that's what the journal IDs are here for. As transactions pass through automatically from the front end of the system, whether it's sales, parts and service, the inventory system, all of them land in a particular journal. If you wanted to adjust these, we do have the ability to set up your journal names, and this goes alongside setting up your profit centers and your departments. These items have been in your installation implementation worksheets. So, you may have seen these items or been discussed as to what you can change here. So definitely keep, something to attend to in the beginning. You don't want to run through with the system for 8 months before changing all your journal names, because now everyone's going to be confused what they're looking at. So just one of those things that, we'll definitely want to make sure you've got it to your liking before you really start using the system in full. I will tell you, I don't have many folks who change the journals too much from where they're at, because they simply do cover quite a bit of, the scope of what's happening day to day. So let's go through that now. If I click on all journals this month, what am I seeing? Well, first off, we notice we're only viewing 1 month, and that's how the system is designed. It doesn't want you, seeing multiple months worth of transactions unless we need to, and usually you do that through your search. But here, I see everything that posted in this system for month 10. Now, good thing this is a demo environment. Otherwise, this screen would be a lot longer. Having only maybe 20 or so transactions here is pretty small. There are some dealerships I've worked with who they post a couple thousand transactions a day. So it becomes much harder to use this all journals. For those, shops that may only post a handful of items each day, this is it. This is everything that changed on the ledger, at least in the month of October. So if I were to run a balance sheet with this month's activity column or a profit and loss for month 10, it could be presumed that all the data you see, that in that activity column on the balance sheet or for this month's profit and loss would be found in one of these transactions here. Pretty easy. Getting to a transaction, like we've talked about, these filter bars are probably one of my favorite things in the system. And as you learn our software and what the journal IDs mean, you could say, hey, I'm looking for all the checks cut for month 10. Well, I know the checks journal is R1, cash disbursements. So you come up here to the code, type R1. This is every check, both ACH as well as check numbers that left the system for month 10. So again, these filters are probably going to help you a lot in finding exactly what you're looking for, or trying to find items that look off. For example, of all of these items, I can see one that's deleted. So I could use that filter and say, don't show me anything that's deleted, or show me only the transactions we've deleted, to make sure that my team correctly did delete them and, aren't messing with things they shouldn't be. So definitely use those filters to your advantage. Another benefit here is not just opening the transaction itself, but if you hit the Open Doc button, this will take you to the transaction and where it came from. So for example, this is going to open up the bank deposit screen that generated the ledger entry that we're seeing, and it's down here below. So not only do I have access to the transaction, I can see where it came from. Let's go pull up one of these checks, this ACH here. I want to see who it was written to. The GE floor plan, ACH check, bunch of payables, cut. So a lot of transactions here. Again, use this to your advantage. You can always navigate pretty freely from transaction to transaction. Let's say I want to change my month, and we're in month 11 right now. I've validated month 12 and or 10, and we want to go ahead and restrict it / close it. If I go to File, you have the option to change month and year and change current month and year. I know that can be a little vague. Change month and year is changing the month you're looking at. So right now I'm looking at month 10 because we haven't closed month 10 yet. If I move my view to month 11, you can see my transaction window changed, and there's a lot more transactions here that posted in month 11 than in month 10. So you're usually only viewing the system at 1 month at a time. The search will still go beyond that. I can search for a full year's worth of transactions and show those on the screen. That's fine. But for the journal views, you're always pretty much looking at 1 month at a time. Okay? The change current month and year, unlike this change month and year that we just did, this is just changing it for me and for my login. If I were to close out of accounting and go back in, because my current month isn't month 11, it's going to default me right back to month 10. Go back to the journals, right there. Why did it do that? Well, month 10 is our most recent, or our oldest open month. As you close months, the system will automatically advance your month to the next available. So, if you're in a habit of closing your months each month, these will automatically, populate with the correct month and date. If you need to force it because we haven't closed month 10 yet, but I don't want to have to keep logging in and seeing month 10 and then changing it, you can change the current month and year. And what that will do, well, I don't have permission to do that, so I would have to get with my administrator who will grant me access. But for the sake of our demo, good to know that once you set this to month 11, every time anybody logs in, it's going to be month 11. But the current month and year really doesn't need to be utilized if you're closing your months in a timely fashion each month, because the system will automatically advance you to your current posting period. So just something to keep in mind there. Going through the rest of the journal IDs, let's just describe them. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a cheat sheet here as to how to know what's going on in here. You don't have to take full notes on this, but I would kind of start to remember some of these things because they're going to help you in the long run when you're researching items. First, let's talk about our not posted journal. So any transaction that is unable to post due to it being out of balance, or maybe it's a scheduled transaction where the accounts receivable line requires an entity number, but there is no entity assigned to it, well, that account is restricted to be posted without an entity assigned, so it will not post. So this is one of the things you'll need to attend to every month prior to closing. I cannot close a month if I have not posted transactions in the ledger. Makes sense. This month looks good. Why don't we change over to month 11 and see how that differs? I have 3 not posted transactions. I can tell because there's a red box in the posted and it's not checked off. So why don't we check this first one here? Please fix the issues all red. This came from a recurring entry and requires additional information. So as you can see, my transaction's in balance. It's posted to the same month and posting year, but the entity required for this 9,000 GL account is not here, and a comment is required as well. I would need to populate both of these fields with something. And grab an entity that exists. And now I hit save, hit yes to post it. And now when I refresh my not posted screen, there's one less to attend to. So just keep in mind, this is definitely going to be one of the things you're going to want to research prior to being able to close a month. Otherwise, you won't be able to. So now, I'm not going to attend to all these right now, but let's work our way down the rest of the journals. The journals A1, B1, and N1 are all populated automatically by your deals as they post to accounting. Pretty straightforward. New vehicle sales contains the values of new vehicles being posted. Used is used vehicle sales. And N is for your wholesale deals. N is not usually used very frequently, but when you're searching your ledger, especially if I go into all journals this month and sort by code, it's safe to presume that when you see these codes, that's telling you what happened. So unfortunately, this deal that we're looking at right here, I was using this in a demo the other day. It got reposted 7 times. So this isn't 7 deals being posted to A1. As you can see, the reference number is all the same. So this deal has been reversed, reposted, which is fine, but this is one deal. What I was hoping to show here is a couple of transactions with that ID so we could show you, hey, I have X amount of deals. Let's change month to 10 and let's see if we can do that there. We have a deposit. I have no used vehicle sales and no wholesale vehicle sales. For the entire month of October, without me pulling a report, it's safe for me to construe that unless those deals didn't get posted to accounting, all we did in sales is took a deposit for that month. If we're just waiting on posting those deals, then we need to get after it, because otherwise that's the only revenue or transaction that I see for the sales department this entire month 10. So you'll start to learn what these journals IDs mean, and we'll be able to identify quickly what's going on. And keep in mind, when you post a deal to accounting, they automatically go to these journals. So if something is posting in the A1 or the B1 journals, they got there from the front end of the system. There's nothing stopping me from clicking journal. I could make an expense entry for rent by coming in here, looking for my rent expense, assigning, $500 or $5,000 out of my checking account or my Chase account, putting $5,000 in the rent expense and saving it. But now I have a rent transaction in the A1 journal. Is that hurting the ledger in any way? No, it's still on the balance sheet in the right place. It's still in the profit and loss in the right expense account, but it just looks odd seeing that in the A1 journal. So typically we recommend anything manually being done by your accounting staff be posted to the Z1 journal, the general journal. That is because fewer transactions automatically post here. It doesn't mean that none do, but a good amount of transactions automatically post to the other journals. The Z1 is typically for your hand entries. So again, nothing functionally wrong with me writing an entry into the A1 journal. It just looks odd because it's not in the place I would expect it, right? So again, to research the system well, you want to make sure the journal IDs are being used appropriately, because that way you know everything in A1 or B1 is what you expect. Okay, so A1, B1, and N1, these are your vehicles, sales, your deals being posted. All of your parts invoices, parts retail and parts wholesale, will post to these two. So it's safe to surmise that in month 10, unless we forgot to cash them out, we didn't do any counter parts ticket sales or wholesale parts ticket sales, right? I see none. That doesn't mean we didn't sell any parts, because those parts could have been on service invoices. But for the sake of counter sales, I don't see anything for month 10. Let's check the service journals. There's 4 here. So these are all service work orders that are retail lines, wholesale journals, internal work, and warranty work. You will find transactions on the service side in multiple journals if it does. Like, for example, let's say a service ticket has a retail line, a warranty line, and an internal line. You'll find that transaction in any one of the 3 journals, but it's not duplicated. You're just seeing the visibility into it because technically that transaction holds data that's, could respectively be found in one of those 4 journals. So we didn't do a lot of service for month 10. In fact, I see one big internal ticket that it looks like we've posted and reposted a few times. So other than that one ticket, we didn't cash out much for month 10 in the service side. Let's check the body shop. Same thing. Body shop, we didn't do a single work order, or we didn't complete and cash out a single work order in month 10. So you can see, you can use just these screens and what's in the journals to kind of extrapolate what's been going on. If you do rental, your rental transactions will post here. We talked about the wholesale vehicle journal. When you buy inventory into the system, when you generate inventory transactions, those will post here to the vehicle purchases journal. You've also got a general purchases journal. This is for items like shop supplies, going out and buying vending machine snacks to populate your vending machine. Just general purchases that don't quite fit in elsewhere. But you'll also find receiving tickets here, right? So parts purchases. If I bought parts from NTP, spent $1,000 with them, these journal references would capture those. So this is a shop supplies transaction for $340, and then this one here is a power bill for $5,000. Okay, so again, general things, purchases of parts, you name it, could show here. We also have cash receipts, Q1. Most of your bank deposits are a cash receipt, right? If I bring information in, or I'm depositing into my bank account, that's usually the Q1 journal. If we receive pay into one of my clearing accounts, like, a contract got paid, I have $10,000, that Wells Fargo owes me for this funded deal, and they go ahead and send us that $10,000, that transaction should be found in the Q1. The R1 is typically all cash disbursements leaving the dealership. So you guessed it, this is the checks journal. So checks that I cut, ACH transactions that I cut, I could come in here and make a manual transaction to reduce our bank account by $500. Or what if I did a bank transfer, right? I took my 1050 Chase account and I have my 1051 main checking account, and I want to pull $15,000 out of the Chase account, move $15,000 into my main checking account, date this with balance transfer, maybe put a date in there, 11/12. And then from here, make sure my posting month agrees to that. We'll hit save. And now I have made a balance transfer between my two bank accounts just by writing that into the journal. However, I didn't date it for month 10, I dated it month 11, so that's why we don't show it here. If I flip my month to month 11, there it is. So keep in mind, transactions, just because you don't see them doesn't mean, they're not there. So some of the things we want to talk about are looking up these transactions when you don't see them in the journal. And that's this reference number here. So for these remaining journals, we can discuss, we talked about warranty credits all being posted to the warranty credits journal, payroll transactions that you create for your staff, any payroll expenses can populate here. The standard journal here is, this is kind of like a general journal, but I haven't really found good usages for this. This is just kind of an extra journal. Again, you put in whatever you want. If you don't, it's not one of those ones that's being automatically populated like the ones above it. And then the Z1 journal, which we mentioned, would be good for any general transactions. But, let's walk it all the way back. If we did write an entry into any one of these journals, the system is still correctly posting to the GL accounts you've chosen. You just might find that transaction organized in one of these other journal headers. So it's not entirely wrong to write entries into the A1 journal that aren't vehicle sales, but could be confusing when you're expecting only to find deals in the A1 journal. So I would try to keep things associated with their journal IDs. If you ever need to jump to a transaction and you know the reference number, which is typically our invoice number in the system, you could always come down here to the bottom left where it says screen number, hit the R for reference, and then type in that reference number. So 111225. And now the system is searching all of the transactions that match. Let's do this again. I will try reference number 123. So if you notice, there's some transactions in here from 2002, 2012, 2013. Any reference where that was used, even if if we've historically used it multiple times, you'll find that with that search. Okay? So let's continue talking about that search. The reason I like this search screen so much is what if I wanted to figure out all inventory postings or transactions that have happened this month to my parts inventory account? But I only want to see what happened in store A, not the rest of the stores, because we have a discrepancy there, and I need to figure out what's going on. So I'll type in the parts GL. It's 1,400 parts and accessories inventory. Profit Center A, we know it's only that store, and I want to look at last month, month 10. Nothing got posted for parts and service that month. A little odd. So let's move this to this month. Maybe the transaction I'm looking for is in month 11, not month 10. There we go. But now look how we could creatively sort this, because here's all my transactions. You could scroll over and see some of the additional information. But what if I wanted to sort it by who posted what? You could grab posted by and drag it into this column header, and now you've created a pivot table similar to Excel, and I can track transactions based on who posted them. So first, I can see everything that the admin account posted. And then further, I can see everything that Mr. Hoffreiter here posted. So this filtering can really creatively help you find what you need. Here's another example, day by day. So here's every transaction posted on the 3rd. Maybe I have an issue with my reconciliation of this account, and I know my error happened after the 2nd day of the month, or maybe the 4th day of the month. So I know these transactions aren't part of our problem. However, these might be, and we'll want to start with those. So this grouping by, to me, this is better than pulling a report, because this is almost a report that I can interact with and manipulate pretty freely. So again, like your journal IDs, I want to see everything that the parts, that got posted to the parts journal. Well, C1, we know, was its parts sale, parts retail sale. G1 means parts were sold on a service internal ticket. And then P1 is our general purchases, so we've probably bought some parts there. So just by knowing these journal IDs, I've kind of extrapolated what's been going on with this GL account based on what's been posted. And then we could further research that by drilling down into the transactions themselves. I will spend more time on this search screen when we're doing reporting, but I will tell you that this is probably the most powerful portion of the accounting system, is its flexibility in searching. And I will always push you towards this as opposed to a research report, because typically you can find things much faster here, and you can jump right into the transaction and begin making your adjustments or corrections directly from here. So I think this is a good stopping point. I know we're breaking these accounting sessions up quite a bit, in about 30-minute segments, but obviously for the sake of the material and hopefully keeping these fairly straightforward, we've decided to kind of break them up into multiple sessions. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the next couple minutes here for any questions. It looks like we only have one other person attending at the moment, so I'll hold off to see if you have anything. Otherwise, we will be resuming with the write checks and drafts portion of the system in our accounts payable at 11:30 Eastern, so about an hour from now. We will continue doing accounting training through the rest of this day. So that will include items like accounts receivable. I believe that's going to be at, bear with me here, I'm pulling up my calendar. 2 p.m. Eastern today will be our accounts receivable session, and our banking session going over the daily deposits and the bank rec at 3:30 Eastern. Question coming in about does Motility have an actual payroll function? Unfortunately, we do not. This is something that we used to offer, platforms ago. We have since moved away from payroll just due to the reason that, it's a lot of upkeep, and there's payroll systems out there that are full HR centers that we have a little bit of integration with. For example, we do allow you to import accounting transactions. So many times, if you have a third-party payroll software, let's call it, Paylocity, ADP, Paychex, you name it, a lot of those softwares can export their GL entry into a format that we can then import into the system directly. So I could go to Tools, Import Accounting Transactions, pick the file that was generated from my payroll platform, and import it right in, and it will generate that accounting entry for me. QuickBooks can be imported. There is a format specified. So if you do, it's kind of that same process. If you currently do your payroll in QuickBooks, there is a way for them to export that out into an Excel file, and that's what we're looking to import. So if you notice in this import screen, there's a couple of kind of parameters. We can get you an import template. If you just ask the professional services consultant that you're working with, they can show you what that template looks like and how we can migrate some of that QuickBooks data into that template to import in pretty quickly. So that's as close as I can get it, you know, where you're not trying to rekey an entire payroll into the system. We prefer you just do it in the system that you do it in, and then when you're ready to import that transaction in, we'll get it into a format that we need. And sometimes it takes manipulating a bit of their export out, but I haven't done it with QuickBooks, mostly the other systems, but usually it's the same process, just, you know, identifying how they export it out and copying it into our template. But that's definitely something, if you ask your professional services team member, they'll be able to identify how to do that process and walk you through it. And we may have some time later in these later sessions to do an import. So I'll keep that in mind as we get to some of our Q&A sessions. We might be able to do a quick import. You're welcome. Thank you for some good questions. I feel like I'm alone in here. Well, I do apologize for the scheduling mishap. I believe they did double book a session here, but I'm glad you were able to attend. As always, we'll see you here probably in about an hour, and we will continue this training on the write checks and drafts and motility pay functionalities in accounting. So we'll catch you in about an hour. Thank you.